Hi there, and welcome to the Mindset Mastery Summit, a free online training summit where we're discussing how to shift your mindset for greater joy, inner peace, and resilience in order to live your best life. I'm your host, Shelley Roberts. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dianne Bischoff James, Master of Reinvention and Coach. Dianne Bischoff James is a best-selling author, acclaimed motivational speaker, and expert on the topic of life transformation. Having found herself completely off track, she rebooted her life, losing 60 pounds, ridding herself of depression, conquering numerous debilitating health problems, launching an acting career, a healthy divorce, and surviving the perils of an addictive relationship, all after 40 years of age. Dianne's experience, continued fascination why we came here, and what makes people tick, along with pragmatic metaphysical tools, have established her as a leader in enlightened education, and her top 10 inspirational book, The Real Brass Ring, has garnered national media attention by helping others create long-term change in our modern age. She has taught people all over the country how to recognize their own personal power and potential, and educates clients in the latest techniques for transforming their hearts, minds, and bodies for optimal, authentic living. Dianne, I am so glad to have you on the summit today.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm so happy to be here.
It is such a pleasure. So you've definitely done it all and been through it all, it seems like. What was the wake-up call that kind of rebooted your life and turned things around for you?
Well, I was almost 40 years old and I thought like I had it all. This is what you're supposed to get, right? I had the mini mansion across from the lake. I had a successful career. I had multiple degrees. I had the kids. I had the activities and a long-term marriage. And then I went to see Sonia Choquette. And she's a well-known psychic right now. She's a prolific writer and has a new book out actually. And in that session, you know, we all go to psychics from time to time, or people who are going to give us advice. And she basically said, look, honey, your entire life is wrong. You're off track, wrong guy, wrong career, wrong passion, wrong location, wrong everything. And she goes, you better hurry up and grab at the real brass ring or it's going to be too late for you. So I had this, smack upside the head, and first wanted to like strangle her because how could I possibly done everything wrong and be educated and be midway through my life and found that I dialed into the wrong channel.
Yeah.
And I pursued it with gusto. I did everything I could to try to make that thing work. But I knew that she was right because I was basically dying on the inside. I was 190 pounds. Everything was broken in my body. They told me I probably wouldn't even walk and be able to lift my arms in probably 10 years from now if I didn't do something about it. And so I had all those inner signals, but I wasn't listening to them. And she called me out. I like to say she piled up all that dirty laundry and just smacked it across the room and it went flying. And then I had to figure out what to do. So what occurred to me at the time is like, there's no playbook, there's no rules, there's no real course or something that we can do that's going to give us reliable change. So I kind of made that my quest. I decided that if I had to change everything, I was going to do it. I was going to do it right. And then I was going to show everybody else how to do it because I wanted to be able to help others. So there was kind of a playbook out there. Okay. So part of what I did is I wrote everything down. I've been gathering information on this topic really since I was born, and I put it all together in the 14 shortcuts for happy living and changed my life using those rules and using these as tools and techniques to remember, how to get back to authenticity, how to change everything, how to go through those hard lessons. And then on the other side, come out and go, oh, this is who I really am. Life is so much better when you're living as your true self and you're finding your joy from within. So
can you elaborate a little bit on the things that turned around? I mean, obviously your health and your well-being turned around. There must have been something about what she said that resonated, even though it was hard to hear. You said you were ignoring the inner signals. There must have been something there to have caused you to go to see her in the first place.
Well, I was always curious about, why we're here, what makes us tick, what is motivating us. But I knew, I think we all know our bodies are innately brilliant, and our spirit and our spirit and our soul are always trying to talk to us. So I was miserable because I was stuffing food in my face 24/7 to try to get rid of those those awful feelings, like having that dark cloud. I was also sucking down Prozac 24/7 because I didn't like my life. I didn't like who I was. I was going through the motion. So I knew, and there were all the signals, but I wasn't listening. And I think part of it is because we're programmed, and we really are programmed very much from kids. You know, as being a child, we're told, you know, if you do these things, your life is going to end up this way. So you have to, my dad always said, you can be a doctor, you can be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, or an accountant. And if you do any one of those four things, you're going to be a happy person. So that's what everybody did in my family. We have a doctor in the family, we have a lawyer in the family. And I went after all the engineers, but more from a marketing side. So, you know, we follow these rules.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're doing that anymore. And I think the times have changed. So what's kind of cool now is that I look at things differently. And one of the very first things I did was break down my life. And this is one of the 14 shortcuts I'd love to share. It's about leveraging your alignment. So breaking it down: mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And we all have key things we're supposed to be accomplishing in those four areas. This is kind of what I discovered. And on the mental side, it's about how are you spending your day? What amount of your time are you investing in things that you love? Whether that be work, it could be just a hobby, it could be a passion, it could be anything. But how much of your time are you actually focusing on things that get that like resonant value high, things that make you so happy? So I started looking at all that, and my answer at the time originally was like a 0. There was nothing that I loved doing. And then the other part is on the emotional side. Like, are you being fulfilled? Of course, from the inside, self-love. Where does that rank for people? So I love to do the whole like numeric. I always feel like you're in the Olympics. Like, what are you going to give yourself on self-love? And you have to hold up your little paddle, and you can say, you know, a 1, a 2, a 10, whatever it might be. But in a perfect world, we'd all be at a 10. So we have to kind of look at that, like, okay, where are we emotionally? Just to have your awareness and raise that, and see what you can do to make your relationships more fulfilling. And then look at the physical side. Now, I was broken on every aspect, had to go in for a couple surgeries to fix some stuff, but you know, it's our responsibility. So on a physical, we have to step up. So I did yoga, committed to it. It was kind of funny. I haven't really ever told anybody this, but I had to wear like gloves to do yoga. I had that workman's belt, and I had like pads on my feet, but I was like, I don't care what I look like going into this yoga class. I am going to commit until I feel better. And I did. And I just kept showing up, and I started shedding my layers and shedding my little tools to help me keep myself together. And eventually your body responds. And then the last part is the spirituality. And that's the important thing about that alignment, is it's always trying to communicate with you in your heart. So when you really trust your intuition, when you're getting your messages, when you're listening, and as I say, heeding all that wonderful information that's coming to us that we've been trained to ignore, but we really should listen to, that's when life starts to get really fun. So that's just one of the tools, but that alignment to me is the central core of everything. And we give lip service to it. A lot of people do. But when you really are in a kind of a rough situation, I always say to my clients, okay, let's look at it. What's really going on? Is it mental, emotional, spiritual, physical? And very often, a couple areas are high, a couple areas are kind of you're working on, or you're learning, or you're struggling. And it makes it easier to just compartmentalize a little bit, instead of saying, oh, my life is terrible, you know, or it's not going right. No, really, it's not usually all of it. It's more like, yeah, I tried to get this thing done. This person didn't respond the way I wanted, but that's just one little piece of that puzzle. And when we look at it in a more organized fashion, to me, it was a lot easier to get the stress off what's going on, and then just address the piece, the one area you really need to look at, you know?
Yes. So the one piece that's not maybe going right doesn't ruin all the rest of the other pieces.
Exactly. You put gratitude and appreciation, and the other little trick is, you know, no one really shares this, but you know, you can't create from below the line. Okay, so it's about managing this wave. See, we're beings of light, and light moves in waves like this. So if that middle line is here, then everything below that line, the line being neutral to positive, anything below, it's almost impossible for the universe to get behind you to create from that. So we can't create from depression. You can't create from, you know, helplessness. You can't create from worthlessness. You can't create from all those things that have left us empty. And so I was depressed to the point where they were giving me medication for it. And I didn't realize that part of that is just a cycle that keeps you down and keeps you low. So I was able to just stop that, never went back to it again. I became an actor at 40. Who would think you could ever do that? And I've done like, I don't know, 50 movies. I've just wrapped up a movie a year ago with Paul Sorvino. I mean, I've had this kind of a reboot that they would have said was impossible. But I didn't create from lack. I created from neutral to positive. And I decided that no matter how I looked, no matter how inexperienced I was, that I was going to go be an actor because I love doing it. And, you know, as God is my witness, I went out there and I did it. I showed up and I just kept showing up and I enjoyed it and I loved it. And because I loved it so much, 30 pounds fell off in about 3 months. And the vibration got higher, and then everything else became easier and easier. And then the plugging in the 14 shortcuts made it the intellectual challenge of it too. How do you keep yourself on track?
Yeah.
So just to share maybe another one of them is that, and this kind of goes along with what we're talking about, but feeling good is the Mecca. And it sounds so simple, but I think many of us are trained to, you know, disregard, disrespect, and disempower ourselves. And you don't want to do some things, but you're like, I'll do it anyway. You know, it's the whole, like, we just have to continue suffering because this is what and I was like this too. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. That anything that makes you feel good, anything that brings you up in your vibration is the correct direction. So I have clients all over the country. And I actually have one here in Massachusetts, and we've been working together. We straightened out her alignment. We helped her heal with tapping. So I do tapping as part of the mechanism of helping heal. And then we looked at how she was on her feeling good Mecca. And she said a friend told her to stop doing crafts because she was staying inside too much and she wasn't getting out. And I said, but how do you feel about doing those crafts? And she's like, it's the love of my life. And her work was the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. She created a quilt, sent me a picture. I almost fell off my chair. It was stunning. And I thought, so you basically said, okay, this is my core gift. I can do something nobody else can do, and I shouldn't do it because somebody told me not to. I said, wow, okay, let's opposite sauce that one. Let's backwards. Whoa, flipping that one around. What if you became you had the most gorgeous quilts in the world, and then you start to present that in a way where other people could enjoy them, see them, you sell them, who knows, maybe you do art shows. I don't know where this could go. Whatever you want, wherever you want it to go. Make them for yourself, make them for family, make them for others, sell them, it doesn't matter. But her whole vibration started changing when it gave her permission to just feel good from the inside out. And it's just, I think we unfortunately are trained as kids to, you know, be quiet and or as we were, you know, speak when you're spoken to, only when you're spoken to, and don't cause trouble, you know.
Absolutely. And I think just to draw back to something that you said in the very, very beginning, you were living the American dream, air quotes, but it wasn't your American dream. So it was handed to you, you pursued it with gusto, and then you realized, you know, when you got there and you met the destination and you're like, but I'm miserable. You were ignoring your body. So when you talk about alignment, is it stop ignoring your body, stop ignoring those nudges, stop ignoring what makes you, you know?
That's part of it. That's exactly right. It's the, I call it the radar detector. So, you know, the beep, beep, beep feeling that mine goes right through here, like in the solar plexus. And it's that beep, beep, beep. I really don't want to do this. I really don't feel good about this, or this person is making me feel, I call angsty, you know, you get that like angsty feeling. Well, we're trained to shut that down. And I'm going to say in particular women, men too, but in particular women, I think just because of the history and the nurturing role, and, you know, we've come a long way in the last 100 years, that's for sure. But it used to be, couldn't vote, couldn't do anything, and basically just be quiet and ignore everything and take care of the kids. And so now we're saying, okay, you know what? I've got that feeling here. I don't like it. I can tell something's coming up. But then how do you address it in a healthy way? That's the thing. You don't just tell everyone, no, I flatly refuse to be with you anymore. What you do is you say, look, you know what? You decide in your head, what do you want to participate in? So if there's someone that you don't feel good about being with, there's ways in which you can do it in a real healthy way where you decide, okay, I'll just see them occasionally, or I'll make this a better formula for myself. So if there's people that I want to spend time with, but I keep it kind of limited sometimes because they're taking more energy than maybe I can handle for that day. And so we just keep it in a nice, positive framework. That way I'm choosing to do it. I'm choosing to be there. I'll just give you one funny quick example. My daughter calls me and said, she's in college, but she said, Mom, can you bring, and she's downtown Boston and I'm in the north suburbs, and it's a big haul to get downtown sometimes with traffic. She goes, I don't have any quarters, she said, for the washing machine. And I'm thinking to myself, quarters, okay, you are in the city, right? And she said, I don't have enough. And so I had to think to myself, do I want to get her a roll of quarters, drive them downtown, and deliver them to someone who's 20 years old? And so, I mean, it seems silly, but I really had to make that choice. And I thought, well, I need to go to the bank anyway. I don't mind going downtown. I did it out of this place of kind of like fun. And I had a chance to, get her to go out. We went out to lunch then. And somebody else said to me, are you kidding me? You drove and brought somebody quarters. And I said, I did, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
I really wanted to. There was no feeling of being a victim, or I didn't feel like, I was trying to disempower her. It was kind of one of those simple requests that I'm like, hey, I can make this kind of a fun outing for myself. And so it's a way of kind of reframing it. Yeah. But I did it purely out of choice and purely out of love because I don't know. It was just, whatever. I'm being a mom, and it's okay. It's okay because I felt good about it. I didn't feel bad.
But I think that's a key point, because anytime that you're confronted with something that and normally you're programmed to just say, oh, I have to say yes to this, otherwise I'm going to make them feel bad, or I'm going to do the whole guilt or shame thing. No, you have a choice in the matter, and you can reframe it for yourself so that it puts you in a better place. And if the answer was, I really can't fit that in today, then how do you reframe that whole scenario without going down the whole path of the guilty mom thing? It's a reframe too, right?
Yeah. Well, that's an easy one. And this is a great tip for everybody. You just say, that doesn't work for me. Because nobody can argue with that statement. There isn't any way in the world someone can tell you what does or does not work for you. Yeah. And kind of an interesting thought, people rely so heavily on the medical profession, but there isn't a doctor in the world that can tell you how you feel. They always have to start with, how do you feel? Mm-hmm. And I think we've lost touch with that. So if even the doctor doesn't know how you feel, they do the little smile, the crabby face, or the pain face, or the flat face, and the happy face. Only we know what's in that spectrum. And if we were paying more attention to it, I would think we could manage that. We could be paying attention to our alignment. I'd love to circle back to that if you don't mind, because what I found to be one of the clues for working with clients and for helping people get better balance is that they usually have two areas that are relatively high in this mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. And there's about 6 or 7 questions that go in each of these areas. And in those questions, you can kind of see where you're ranking. Like, are you high on one, low on another? Does one feel great for you? One feels completely empty, or one feels like it's missing. And then you can look at it, and what happens is on that alignment is, in a perfect world, we'd all be at an 8 to 10. That would be ideal. We'd all feel great with what we're doing, how we're spending our time. We'd all feel great with our relationships. We'd be just yummy and feel all that good, juicy stuff going on. And then we'd physically be feeling fit, and we'd be feeling fabulous. And then on the spiritual side, we'd be getting our messages. We'd be getting our lessons in an easier way, rather than having to get smacked upside the head, which of course I had to get smacked hard. But you would be looking at things in an objective way, and you would be finding your joy from the inside, which of course comes from having this whole thing in balance. It also comes, and I'd love to bring this up if it's okay, is a little bit about the aspect of, why is it that we're so out of balance? Mm-hmm. Why is it that we have to look at things in these 4 quadrants? The quadrants make it easier to isolate, but the truth is that we all have had these imbalances and these traumas, everything trauma 1 all the way up to trauma 3 or 4, that have happened to us. Every single one of us didn't have a perfect childhood. We did not have perfect relationships. Many of us did not get great role models, whether it be for being a mom or being a woman or being a dad or being a father. And no matter what it is, we never really had this perfect, we absorb things until we were about 12 or 13 or 14 years old. So we're sucking in these messages. So I heard doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer, and I sucked it in just because we're sponges. And so we don't have tools in order to say, you know what, consistently, this is what a client will come. I had one who come and say, you know what, I had this bad relationship. This guy, he just, he cheated on me. And then my husband, he was terrible to me. And he also had some other relationships. And then my boyfriend in college, he too, he's done all this to me. And I said, there's a very consistent theme going on here. Looking at the consistency of what you have drawn to yourself, right? Because if you had a ton of self-respect, and if you had just really good connections with others and great boundaries, the likelihood of you having a series of relationships where people were unfaithful or they had done things that you didn't care for would be a lot less. So let's look at how you treat you, and then what you allow, and why it is you've allowed people to treat you like a doormat or treat you with such utter disrespect as a person.
Right.
And so then we get into it. And one of the cool things is that we can almost always remember the first time we had that feeling, whatever it was, like, I don't deserve to be treated with love and respect. Let's say that's what you're coming up with. Wow, look at how many times I've repeated this. Look how many times it's shown up in my life. And then one of the best techniques I like to share is the tapping. And I do it on almost like a clinical level. So when clients work with me, we work a little bit on the mental space. We work on all 4 quadrants, and then we add the healing aspect in. Because, I could tell you all day, Shelley, look, if you just worked hard enough, if you just applied yourself and you never, ever, ever gave up, then you could get whatever you're trying to get. Now, but that's only one piece of it. Your perseverance is one aspect of manifestation. The other aspect of is, do you deserve it? Are you worthy of it? Has anyone ever shown you how to have it? Do you believe you can have it? So those all come from those young messages. So what the tapping does, and I'll just demonstrate for a second. You start at the top of your head, and this is not, you can do it to yourself and it feels great, but it's a lot more clinically, as far as removing patterns. It helps if you have somebody do it to you, or someone do it with you, like on a Skype kind of thing. Most of my clients do the Skype. And then we move to here. And what we do is we work through the meridians on the body, and these energy bodies got stuck. So I'll never have someone who loves me as I truly am. And a lot of people are stuck on that one. And we go through these meridians and we tap and we say things like, even though I've had this situation, and this is one of the ones that you can do even when you're in a line somewhere. I do this sometimes in the grocery store if I'm getting kind of frustrated and people are being really slow. You know how you get that? You're like, I just want to get out of here. And people are being all slow and pulling out their pennies. But if you just take your fingers and you put on either side of your pranic cord, which kind of goes through your whole body, you just gently tap here. It almost feels like you're getting kind of a hug. It's like that, it's that nice patting like we would have had when we were little babies. And then we tap a little bit under the armpit too. And this series goes on when they work with me professionally, we do this for almost an hour and a half. And every time we're doing it, we're clearing this depth and this level of hurt sometimes, neglect sometimes, abandonment, pain, whatever came up that gave you that message can be removed. And it can be removed permanently, and that's the best part of it.
Well, I love that there's a mind, body, and then the subliminal connection to bringing all of that up, but then working through reframing it and clearing it and being able to move past it at that point, right?
Yes. And the important part is, let's get rid of it for good.
Yeah.
So quick example, I had someone come to me once and they're like, I'm in a new job. I'm panicking. My boss hates me. The girl across who sits from me, the girl who sits across from me hates me. She's asking everybody to get coffee, but she won't even ask me. So she goes like, I'm petrified. I'm freaking out. And can you help me? So we went into it and we started the tapping process. And I said, well, when's the first time you had this feeling like I'm never, ever going to master this? No one's ever going to trust in my abilities. And she went back to a time when she was in fourth grade, and a teacher threw a plastic globe to her. And she caught the globe, and the teacher said, point to South America. And she pointed to the wrong continent. And a little boy who was in her class stood up behind her and said, here it is, stupid. You don't know anything. And he pointed to where it was. The teacher laughed. Everybody in the class laughed, and she was mortified. You know, she had that, it always feels like something pours through you. Like, I don't know, it's this horrible feeling like it just rushes through your body. Well, that gets imprinted and stuck. And so we worked through it, and we did our hour and a half. We tapped, we got rid of it. And she calls me back a week later and she goes, I just want to know, what did you do to me? I'm like, what do you mean? I tapped on your head. You know, we tapped and you released these patterns. And she goes, yeah, but the girl who I thought hated me has just invited me out to hang out with her on the weekend. My boss told me I'm doing a better job than anybody. And she goes, and I don't care anymore. She goes, somehow I don't feel like whether I handle this client in the way that I thought, or, you know, she goes, it just doesn't seem like that's important anymore. And I'm just doing my job. And I said, great. And how's it going? She goes, I think I'm going to be like a superstar here. I'm like, well, that's what you got. Because you got rid of the stupid and you got rid of you don't know anything, which got really stuck, totally stuck. So that's why I love to add the healing aspect with it, with the coaching aspect, and it becomes this, it's a complete integration. And there's lots of ways to get healing. It's just that this one really, really, really works. And so it's just an amazing tool.
Yeah, I've heard that that connection of literally tapping on the meridians, and then working through the acknowledgement of what it is that you need to release, honoring it for, you know, that it's there, acknowledging it, and then being okay, having permission to let it go and wash it out of you and move on from there. That is so powerful. Can we do one now? Do you have the quick one?
We'll just do we can do a quick one together. And just kind of like, it will just be a general. And one of the key aspects you'll see as we go through is just giving, like you said, giving yourself permission. But the most important thing is giving yourself the understanding that it's safe to let it go, which I found to be fascinating. So we'll do that, and you'll see how the words touch in. So we'll just start on the top of our heads, okay? And it's, you know, close your eyes. It's usually best to just get into centered, just feeling centered for a second, and just tap on your crown for just a second. And then we're going to go to over the eyebrow. We're going to start. We're going to say, even though. Repeat after me. On the side of your head, I have had some experiences.
I have had some experiences.
Under your eye, in this lifetime.
In this lifetime.
Now put it over your top lip that didn't go exactly as I would have liked.
That didn't go exactly as I would have liked.
On your chin. I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
On your chest. Exactly as I am.
Exactly as I am.
On your armpit. Who I am.
Who I am.
Top of your head. As I am.
As I am.
And on your eyebrow. So I release and let it go.
So I release and let it go.
Side of your eye. I totally let this go.
I totally let this go.
Under your eye. Just let it go.
Just let it go.
On your lip. It's safe to let this go.
It's safe to let this go.
On your chin. It's time to let this go.
It's time to let this go.
And on your chest. So I let it go.
So I let it go.
On your armpit. It's safe to let this go.
It's safe to let this go.
Now just take a deep breath. And we're going to breathe out together. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
I know what? I let go, but I feel lighter. Do you have to know exactly what it is that you're addressing?
It's really interesting. In some respects, no, but what I've found is that, and I tour all over, so I go to a lot of the expos all over the country, and I'll just take people out of the aisle and I'll say, well, let me try this on you and see how you feel. And most people just feel that just a sense of relief just by doing that without a specific topic. And it's I like to say, it's like that big hug that we all wanted when we were kids. When someone's, I'm sorry, I've got a little thing on my hand here. I have a tape on my hand because I'm my thumb, but it's like somebody's giving you that little tap. It's like somebody's patting you. That's what it gives me. It gives you that sense of you're getting like a giant warm hug, and the patting, and so that's part of the first energy release. But with the extensive one that I work with clients on, we need to get to the message. That's what I found. And let's say that message was from a particular time, something happened. Let's say your mom, you came up and you said, oh, Mom, let me show you this new dance. And she goes, I don't have time. Let's just say she's busy, right? She goes, I don't have time for you. You got kind of filtered with that thing. And let's just say that happened. The I don't have time for you needs to be processed out. And then the other one of, I just wanted to show you something new and you weren't there for me. And then that kind of has to get processed out. And then, so there's oftentimes very thick layers, especially when it has to do with weight. Especially if somebody is like myself, I was grossly overweight. That was so many layers of messages of not being good enough, or not wanting to be seen, being afraid that somebody would see me, and just covering up the pain. So that was like several different processes. But in each time we do this, in one full session, you can get rid of one for good. That's a guarantee. And we all have, like I said, I like to say like a portfolio of these lessons. So I have my portfolio, you have your portfolio, all of our guests have their portfolios, and we're all working off the same menu.
Yeah.
A little different meal than my meal, and somebody else has a dessert and somebody else has an entree, and all those different ones we're here to do. So we're here to work on those. Those are the lessons. And that is one of our biggest gifts, and one of our greatest challenges is to address the lesson and remove it for good.
Yeah. Yeah. And that way we can recenter our lives, reframe them in a more positive way, a more joyful way.
Exactly.
And a more healthy way probably too.
Things change almost I would say within 2 weeks. I've been doing this full time for 4 years, and found the techniques that work. And I have a client now who was stuck. She was an artist. She is just a beautiful woman with a gift. She was a painter and also very spiritual, and she was shut down when we first met. So shut down to the point where she was unable almost to get up and get out of the house. She had all these situations happen where she felt like a victim. And I had this vision of her when I first met her, and it was just more of a mental vision, but she was almost like a person down on her knees, just holding onto herself on the ground, unable to stand up. So we started working on that. We worked on all these aspects of the 14 shortcuts, about finding out her true gifts, about finding her true passion, her true path, and the healing aspect. So what happened to her is, because she felt strange her entire life. She'd been able to see spirits. She had been able to have all these intuitive messages, and she had been told to shut it down, that she was weird. So her message, one of her first messages that we worked on was, you're weird, you can't play. And then one mother had said, you're so weird, you have to get out of my house. I don't want you playing with my kids anymore. So she was a little child, and she went home, cried her eyes out, and decided that she was different, and that she was never going to find her people. She was never going to find her tribe, her people who understood her. And this had gotten kicked off again. This got triggered. And so we worked on that one. Next thing you know, she starts painting. Next thing you know, she starts getting commissioned art. And now she's working on becoming truly abundant. And also, because I'm a marketing professional and a business coach too, now we're pulling in the business aspect of it. So once you get that kind of moving and people feel better, they're like, wow, what can I do with this? What can I do with these skills? And how can I use it to serve myself from a prosperity perspective? Because there's a lot of healers in the world who can't feed themselves. And so
Yeah.
it's almost like the two went together. It's almost like the poverty, that the vow of poverty went along with being a spiritual person or being a healer. And same thing went with artists. So I'm an actor, an author, and a healer. And trust me, those are three of the areas where it's really tough to make that a profitable area in your life. But it is possible. It's totally possible. Once you get all of those areas healed within, it's really possible to make sure that you're getting an equal and fair exchange for what you put into your work. And people recognize that.
So alignment, bringing it back to the alignment that you talked about before, having the healing in all of the quadrants, so that you can then express in a more abundant, prosperous, joyful way.
Yes.
And the techniques and the tools and whatever those ways are, right? And then the techniques and the tools help you get that alignment and then keep it there so that you can then move into the next level.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
So that is so amazing. And do you have a free gift that you're offering that helps us to do that?
I do. I have the 14 shortcuts for happy living for you. And so what I'm going to be able to do is with the link that you have, Shelley, you can go on my website and you can sign up, and the 14 shortcuts for happy living will be there for you in a PDF, and start using them every day. It takes a little bit to get them all under your belt, but and also use them kind of in a predictive way. So in the morning you could say, okay, which one do I want to work on today? And it just gives you that little extra daily reminder about things that you can do to quickly and easily shape your life in a more positive fashion.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. And I know the audience is going to enjoy it as well. The link will be posted at the bottom of the video. And Dianne, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so incredibly enlightening. Pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. And also, if you're interested in any of this, The Real Brass Ring, Change Your Life Course Now. That's my book, and it's on Amazon, and it's easy to find. So it's called The Real Brass Ring, Change Your Life Course Now.
Fantastic.
So as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So our audience, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon on the Mindset Mastery Summit.